Hi all and welcome to the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. Right, we've got a lot to cover tonight and I think I'm going to lose my voice by the end of it. There's a lot of stuff we've covered this year. And we're going to begin tonight with April. And the reason I played that song, that last song, Time Keeps on Slipping, because I did a piece in April and it said there was an ongoing issue currently to do with time slips and time jumps that have been occurring with increasing frequency. And this is down to the clowns messing to try and go back in time and reclaim the covenant again. Remember that word, as it came up later on in the year. It hasn't and will not work, but it has created distortions in what we perceive as time. And a warning to the clowns was given. This is going against natural law and punishments are now fairly steep. These times are not like the past. Whatever you did, well, they used to do whatever they wished with zero consequences. Those days are now over, period. And we will not warn you again. We will just act. Well, that time jumps has been continuing. I experienced a 7-minute glitch just before Christmas, where time went back 7 minutes and then went forward 7 minutes. Right. SSP in April are trying to gain access to the on-world portals via selective mountains dotted around the world. In fact, all mountains are portals, but some carry a higher purpose, shall we say. And that was because of their desire to fix or obtain more of the advanced tech which they once had access to. They don't now. Underground beings are still holding firm and blocking them gaining access, and it's expected they will hold that stance as they are kind of excited by the fact they are close to freedom as well. Many of them down there have been slaves. Then I did a piece, Why the Wall is Being Built, and there was elements in it that kind of shocked people, some. And this obviously is still ongoing. It will be a contentious point. It's not really an issue, but it's being used as a smokescreen, shall we say. So what is the purpose and the reasons for the wall? Well, the purpose is to prevent mercenaries, acronym-led groups created by our own agencies, drug gangs, gangs intent on and that live for violence, which are later used to do the dirty work of others in a plea bargain when they're caught, the sex trade and trafficking, child porn industry, child human slavery selling, and the worst aspects of this is people are being used for snuff movies, dissecting them live or otherwise for organ harvesting, which are then sold onto the hospitals for between $90,000 and $225,000 depending on which organ, extracting children's adrenal chrome for the Kool-Aid juice, the elite drink that helps with life longevity. And if you think that lot is bad enough, the worst thing, depending on your perspective, is some of them are used for food. Masks of illusion reveal truth, but is that truth comfortable or not for the host or those around? So what is the mask of illusion that I first brought up around 2 years ago now, with warnings it would eventually lead to something resembling all-out chaos? All people wear masks of sorts to cover up shortfalls they don't like others to see. Observers will see it regardless of the mask, and this is a key to psychology. But over the last 5 to 10 years, many have demanded the truth about themselves, this world, and how it all operates. And the biggest question is, how deep, wide and long have the lies gone? Well, that depends on how far and how many rabbit holes you've gone down. We've been down more than most with this show, as I'm able to cover quite a considerable number of topics all in the one show. But I did warn the masks would start to come down and we would see a lot more being exposed on all levels, but also warned you would see it within yourself and also those around you. Masks are not just coming down for the cabal, but all of us. Some will ask why. The reason being is you cannot demand the truth of others and not be truthful within yourself. It's not how it works. Selective truth is what they have done and used on us, and the time for revealing the full truth is now upon us and underway. Back in April, there was 4 marine accidents in a week, and that was part of the fun and games. One of Trump's helicopters crashed, and one had a failed engine. Then there was 2 fires at the Trump Tower. White powder mailed to Ivanka. Battleships playing bumper cars or bumper boats. And it was said at the time, none of a coincidence, and this is all out war. We then did a piece based on an investigation by the group called Fusion, and they found that 80% of women and girls crossing into America by the way of Mexico are raped during their journey. That's still ongoing. The first mention of the hideous reptilian family known as the Rothschilds. There will be more, and we will have music for them later on. And the latest Rothschild plan back in April failed again. Was to dump treasury notes and bonds and collapse the central bank, plus enhance their own missions. They tried to gain treasuries for free from Russia and China. That failed. Then they called in the treasuries that is in one of the federal accounts, but that was stopped as they couldn't prove that they own them, because they don't. The trust does. Reality is they own nothing of note anymore. They lost that when they lost the trust, and the trust is not going to allow them blights on humanity back into the game. Rothschilds also tried to claim the money the trust sent to the Treasury in April. That failed again also. IMF is in total panic, of which we'll find out why. IMF has been threatening all central banks, presidents and prime ministers this week, as a full-on investigation is being undertaken now to find any central bankers or ordinary bankers who have taken bribes from the UN, the IMF or the Hudis-led World Bank. So part of the investigation is the trust sold the UN. This is what solicited the IMF, threatening everyone. This was back in April. The UN owed substantial debts to the trust and had no intentions of paying them back. And so the trust took over, and the UN and all of its subsidiaries was sent back to all the nations who were part of the UN. The properties of the UN is in foreclosure for non-payment of lesser fees by the Rothschilds, Rockefellers and Asian families. Now the sale comes with a complete file that was sent to all nations of the orders done and the misuse by the UN organisation at the same time. A total of 108,000 files of intel against the operations of the UN was handed over to all nations as part of the selling, and an equal share of the dividends that were contained within the UN account all returned to each nation that were in the UN. The video that the NYPD still sits on of Anne and Huma bedding, and some emails were released, and there was one in particular that was put on the show, which was from Anne to Huma Abedin, who's their real love partner. Mr. Let's stain the dress in the White House. That's a sad issue. And Anne wrote this: please bring my hammer and toy I like to use to Comet tonight. That's Comet Ping Pong. Swing by the office and grab my inhaler. Nothing gets my heart going like a sacrifice night. And that entity still operates. Also, we found out more information about the Clintons than their time in the White House, where Anne stole $200,000 of furniture, china and artwork upon exiting the White House and was made to return it. Point is, why wasn't she arrested? Then we go on to, there was a lot of furore about Iran, and it's nothing to do with nuclear weapons and everything to do with black market oil. Nothing to do with nuclear weapons. I'll repeat that because it's nothing. It's all a smokescreen. The deal that pays the head imam in Iran, Bibi, that's Netanyahu, Bush, and Saudi Aramco are all involved, has been going on for years, and they split the profits of $25 a barrel of oil. For the last 20 years, 90% of the world's oil is sold on the black market at $25 a barrel or less. And yeah, even with the prices coming down, it's at 46 now. So that's pure profit on top. The actual cost of making a barrel is $1 to $2. And that's the fictional price we see on the commodities markets, is so they can drive up the price of food and gas for the consumer. And that whole market is rigged. But even though they get it so cheap at $25 a barrel and selling it at 50 or more, now they only want to sell the oil for free or steal the oil for free. So that's what was going on in Iran. They no longer didn't want to pay $25. They wanted to pay nothing. Just collect it all. In other words, what they did in Iraq. Now, what also happened is Mr. Netanyahu got cut out of the last Iranian oil deal. Oops. TikTok, Netanyahu, he's in trouble. Same week, following the trusts dealing with the UN and the IMF subsidiary, the UK, operated by the Blue Dragons, proposed to many African countries to become part of the Commonwealth. The ones who are not currently anyway, there's some already in it. And the ones who are being asked to renew their contract. This is because the trust found out that their agreements had all expired, and Kim went and told all the African leaders. So the UK called them all in, and they all went to a meeting in the UK. And they are trying to make their currency the British pound, Zimbabwe being one of them. Not no more than that. So it's like switching one for the other, and this has a number of issues for different people. One, the African countries would be rolled into the Crown and the Rothschilds, and two, their assets would also come under the Commonwealth and shared wealth. Yeah, you all know how that works by now. We share our wealth with them, they collect it and use it against us, and also fail to disseminate it back to the people. And this will leave numbers of people stuck with Zim notes should it go ahead. As it said at the time, it's not going ahead. I can tell you that 100% guarantee it won't be going ahead. Zimbabwe will not be revaluing their note for at least 5 years minimum, if ever, and they're unlikely to go with the British pound either. So if the people want payouts on Zims, they need to contact Chinese elders, if you can find one, or the Rothschilds. Maybe you can all go and bombard David Rothschild's Twitter and ask him where the Zim payouts are. More on him later, that clown. Echelon, aka Five Eyes, has been run out of Australia. And for those of you who want any insight into that, there's a rather short but decent show on Netflix called Pine Gap. And you'll find out some really interesting stuff within that show if you listen closely. So Echelon is still spying on Americans and also trying to siphon funds out of the trust, which we found out and dealt with. And for those who are unaware of it, Five Eyes, which is actually 9 eyes, and unlike a cat that has 9 lives, this type of spy has 9 eyes. And they all spy on each other's country and then disseminate the intel to each other. The reason they do that is the laws in each country prevents, like for argument's sake, or supposed to prevent, America spying on Americans. So then they get the Russians or the Australian group to spy and then pass the information back, and they all do it intermittently. Rudy Giuliano joins the Trump legal team. Will it whitewash Giuliano's role in coordinating the removal of steel to sell to the Chinese, human parts included, during the first day of 9/11? Mayor Giuliani oversaw the illegal destruction of the 9/11 crime scene and is criminally liable for the deaths of hundreds of emergency workers for not passing on prior warnings about the collapses of the Twin Towers. It's no wonder then that the fire departments of New York so passionately detest Giuliani for his actions in disgracing their fallen brothers and also covering up the 9/11 crime. Some of you will remember me referencing a group known as the White Helmets, helmets being the operative word. Those in the UK will get that meaning more. Many were saying that these are the group are formerly known as the White Hats. And my comment was, yes, the pointy white hats. Well, a report has come out about how much this group has generated via certain funding from 2016 to the tune of $123 million, having received funds via the US State Department, Deep State, 3 branches of the UK government, the German government, the Dutch government, the Danish government, Qatar, which is Obama and his Muslim Brotherhood crew, and Japan. Crowdfunding and website donations for services in Syria, all very Blackwater that. But 2 key aspects of this report that jumped out, all the money was being funneled via a Dutch NGO company called Mayday Rescue. And also the White Helmets received $2.4 million from a fund known as Joe Cox. Now, people in the UK will be familiar with that name, but Joe Cox was a politician in the UK who was shot and stabbed multiple times to death a couple of years ago. Why is her fund being used for the mercenary White Helmet group? Solution section, or proposals that go into the essence to be absorbed. And the first up is important to us all who listen to this show and many others. And this was the first time I mentioned it. I will mention it in more detail later in the year. And I would like to propose to Mr. Trump a dedicated truth channel, primetime TV, not using celebrities or so-called stars or coven-promoted goons within our community, but average people in the alternative community to be recognised for their role in exposing this truth movement and subsequent exposure of the rogue elements. as without all of us deciding something is clearly not right with this world and then finding it was correct and took steps to learn and expose it all, the controllers would have wiped us all out by now. Didn't Mr. Trump mention a truth channel later on in the year? Oh my. And then it gave a solution to the Western world housing crisis, which is reaching epidemic proportions when what looks like a kid's built house in Toronto that I posted this week in the middle of nowhere, that doesn't fit into anything, is selling for $3 million, and it's about 12 foot wide. Beyond stupid. And this piece I put in as we're all getting tired of the deliberate boom and bust. And yes, some may have gained from the booms, but far too many lost from the controlled bust. And what have we ended the housing boom and bust and made all homes affordable to the many, but preferably to the all? And the suggestion was to make all house prices based on the cost to build it, plus 10% builder's cost. And reviews could be added for improvements to homes like additions, pools, extra garages can be adjudicated, but are rigid in a price range. So let's say your home costs $100,000 to build, plus the 10% builder's fee, so your home would always cost $110,000 in value. Will go up, won't go down. And yet you've bought it for $250,000, but if the new mortgage is dropped to $110,000, that makes it not only more affordable for the most people, but the extra money in your pocket then goes into the spending money in your own community, which then helps others. So most people would gain from it with something like that. You know, I'm sure people can come up with other ideas surrounding it, but that's just the gist of it. So the ones who have paid $250,000 would suddenly see their mortgage drop to the level of the house built. So, you know, it's not as if you've lost out.